Welcome. You are here now, in the hush of night, in a house where the wind walks softly, where the walls whisper in verses. This is a place to rest, to listen to what cannot be seen. Tonight's story is called A Mirror in the House of Wind. Breathe gently, settle in, and let the wind begin the tale. Chapter 1. The Breath of Morning. You wake to the distant breath of wind curling through the old wooden shutters. The air carries something sweet, something familiar. The scent of narcissus blooms drifting from the courtyard garden below. Your fingers find the edge of the cotton coverlet, soft and worn from countless washings in the clear waters of the Qanat that flows beneath your house. This coverlet was woven in the bazaars of Isfahan. Its threads spun by hands that knew the ancient patterns, passed down through generations of Persian textile makers. The morning light filters through the carved cedar lattice of your window, casting gentle shadows that dance across your closed eyelids. You cannot see these shadows, but you feel their presence, the way warmth and coolness alternate across your skin like a whispered poem. The wind speaks to you in the old language, the language of the 13th century Persian countryside, where your house stands. It tells you of the night that has passed, of the jasmine that opened its white stars to the moon, of the cypress trees that swayed in their eternal dance, their dark forms reaching toward the heavens like prayers written in living wood. Your house is built in the traditional style of the Seljuk period, with thick adobe walls that keep the interior cool during the heat of summer days and warm during the crisp nights of early spring. The walls are nearly 2 feet thick, mixed with straw and clay from the riverbank, shaped by hands that understood the partnership between earth and sky. You breathe deeply, letting the morning air fill your lungs. The wind carries more than fragrance now. It brings the sound of water, the gentle murmur of the fountain in your courtyard, where water falls from the carved stone basin into the pool below. This fountain was built according to the principles of Persian garden design, where water represents the river of life, flowing through paradise. The sound of water has been your companion for 23 years, ever since you lost your sight to the fever that swept through the region when you were but 15 summers old. But in losing your sight, you discovered other ways of seeing. The water speaks to you now, in voices you never heard before, telling stories of its journey from the mountains, through the Qanat channels, into your garden, and finally back to the earth. You sit up slowly, feeling the cool morning air touch your shoulders through the thin cotton of your sleeping robe. This robe was dyed with indigo, brought by merchants from the distant lands beyond the Oxus River. Its blue as deep as the night sky you remember from your childhood. The fabric is soft against your skin, woven from cotton grown in the fertile fields near Merv, where the soil is dark and rich from centuries of careful irrigation. Your feet find the cool tiles of the floor, each one hand-painted with intricate geometric patterns that tell stories of infinity, of the divine mathematics that underlies all creation. These tiles were made in the workshops of Ray, where craftsmen spent months perfecting each design, mixing their glazes with minerals gathered from the mountains of northern Persia. The wind grows stronger now, and you hear it moving through the house. through the wind-catcher towers that rise above your roof like ancient sentinels. These badgers were designed by architects who understood the science of air movement, how to capture the cool breezes from the north and draw them down through the interior of the house, creating a natural cooling system that requires no fuel, no effort, only the willing partnership of architecture and wind. You stand and walk to the window, your bare feet silent on the cool tiles. The wood of the window frame is cedar, brought from the forests of Mazandaran, where the trees grow tall and straight in the moist air near the Caspian Sea. You run your fingers along the carved patterns, feeling the delicate arabesque designs that flow like water, like wind, like the verses of poetry you compose in your mind. The scent of narcissus grows stronger as the wind shifts. In Persian poetry, narcissus represents the eye of the beloved, its golden center surrounded by white petals, like the iris surrounded by the white of an eye. But you know narcissus by its fragrance, sweet and heavy, with undertones of honey and earth. The bulbs were planted last autumn, nestled into soil mixed with sheep manure and river sand, following the traditional methods your grandmother taught you before the fever took your sight. You hear the first call to prayer, floating across the rooftops from the mosque in the village below. The muezzin's voice rises and falls like birdsong, calling the faithful to remember the source of all blessings. Though you are a poet rather than a scholar of religion, you find peace in the rhythm of the daily prayers, the way they mark time like the movement of the sun across the sky, or the phases of the moon, or the changing seasons. The wind brings new sounds now, the soft clatter of wooden prayer beads as your neighbor moves through her morning devotions, the distant bleating of goats as they are led to pasture, the creak of a wooden bucket being drawn up from a well. These sounds paint pictures in your mind, more vivid than any colors you remember from your sighted days. You move slowly toward the wooden chest where your clothes are kept. The wood is walnut, grown in the mountain valleys where the air is thin and clean. Your fingers trace the carved patterns on its surface, geometric designs interwoven with calligraphy, verses from the poets who came before you, Hafez and Sadi, whose words flow like rivers through the landscape of Persian literature. Inside the chest, your clothes wait folded in neat piles. Your day robe is made of wool, dyed with saffron and madder root, creating colors that shift between gold and deep red depending on how the light falls. The wool came from sheep that graze in the high pastures, where the grass grows short and sweet, flavored by mountain herbs that give the wool its particular softness and strength. You dress slowly, savoring each movement. The robe settles around your shoulders like a gentle embrace. Over it, you place a vest of silk brocade, woven in Bukhara with threads of gold and silver. The pattern depicts birds and flowering vines, traditional motifs that represent the Garden of Paradise, where every soul finds its true home. Your turban is of fine cotton, white as new snow, wrapped in the style favored by poets and scholars. The fabric breathes with you as you move, allowing air to circulate around your head, keeping you cool even during the warmest hours of the day. The cotton was grown in the oasis towns of Khorasan, where irrigation channels bring life to the desert, creating islands of green in the vast expanse of sand and stone. The wind shifts again, bringing the scent of bread baking in outdoor ovens. Your neighbor rises early to prepare the daily bread, mixing flour ground from wheat that grows in the fertile valleys near Nishapur. She shapes the dough with practiced hands, creating the flat rounds that will sustain her family through the day. The ovens are built of clay and stone, designed to hold heat evenly, baking the bread with the gentle, consistent warmth that creates the perfect crust. You walk to your small table, where a brass basin waits, filled with water drawn fresh from the qanat the evening before. The water is cool and sweet, filtered through layers of gravel and sand as it traveled underground from the mountains to your house. You wash your hands and face, feeling the water wake your skin, preparing you for the day ahead. The brass basin was made in the workshops of Herat, where metalworkers have perfected their craft over centuries. The surface is engraved with verses from the Quran, the flowing script dancing around the rim like visual music. Your fingers trace these letters. From somewhere in the house, you hear the soft sound of your servant girl, Gulnar, moving through her morning tasks. She is grinding spices in the kitchen, preparing the saffron and cardamom that will flavor today's tea. Her pestle moves in a steady rhythm against the marble mortar, crushing the delicate threads of saffron that were harvested by hand from the crocus flowers that bloom for only a few weeks each autumn. Saffron is worth its weight in silver, like you use it freely, understanding that some luxuries are necessities for the soul. The saffron comes from the fields near Gyan, where farmers tend the delicate crocus plants with the devotion of gardeners tending flowers in paradise. Each flower produces only 3 stigmas, and it takes the stigmas from over 1,000 flowers to produce just 1 ounce of saffron. The wind carries the sound of Gulnar's voice as she hums an old melody, a song her grandmother taught her about a princess who lived in a castle made of moonlight. Her voice is sweet and clear, like the sound of water flowing over smooth stones. She came to work in your house when she was 12, sent by her family from a village in the mountains, where her father tends flocks of sheep and goats among the high meadows. You walk slowly toward the door that leads to the courtyard, your feet remembering the path they have traveled thousands of times. The door is made of carved poplar wood, its surface decorated with intricate patterns of stars and polygons, mathematical designs that reflect the ordered beauty of creation. The metal hinges were forged by a blacksmith in the bazaar, using iron brought from the mines in the Alborz Mountains. As you open the door, the wind rushes to greet you, carrying the full fragrance of the garden. The narcissus blooms are at their peak now, their perfume mingling with the green scent of new grass, the earthy smell of damp soil, and the subtle sweetness of the herbs planted along the garden paths. Your courtyard follows the traditional Persian garden design, the Chahar Bagh, or 4 gardens. 4 paths of white gravel radiate from the central fountain, dividing the space into 4 planted areas that represent the 4 rivers of paradise. Each section contains different plants, chosen not only for their beauty and fragrance, but also for their usefulness in cooking, medicine, and the daily rhythms of household life. The path beneath your feet is made of small stones brought from a riverbed, worn smooth by centuries of water flow. Your bare feet enjoy the cool, varied texture, each stone different in size and shape, yet all fitting together to create a surface that is both beautiful and practical. Between the stones, moss grows in the cracks, soft and green, nurtured by the mist that rises from the fountain. You walk slowly toward the sound of falling water, your hands extended slightly to maintain balance, though you know this path as well as you know the lines of your own face. The fountain grows louder as you approach, its music becoming more complex, more detailed. You can hear the water falling in 3 distinct streams, each with its own voice, creating a harmony that changes subtly as the wind influences the flow. The fountain basin is carved from a single block of marble, quarried from the mountains near Tabriz. The stone is pale gray with veins of darker mineral running through it like rivers on a map. The surface has been polished smooth by the craftsman who shaped it, but years of flowing water have given it an even deeper smoothness, a texture that speaks of patience and time. You sit on the marble bench beside the fountain, feeling the cool stone through your robes. The bench was carved by the same craftsman who made the fountain, its surface decorated with relief carvings of flowering vines and birds. Your fingers trace these patterns while you listen to the water, letting your mind settle into the peaceful rhythm of morning. The narcissus blooms surround the fountain in carefully planned drifts, their white and yellow flowers nodding in the breeze like small suns dancing on green stems. Between them grow other spring flowers, tulips that will bloom later in the season, their bulbs now sending up green shoots like small spears of hope piercing the dark soil. Tulips are native to the mountains of Persia, where they bloom wild in the high meadows each spring. The cultivated varieties in your garden were developed by generations of Persian gardeners, who selected the finest flowers for their color, their form, their ability to thrive in the garden setting. Some bloom early, some late, extending the flowering season from early spring well into summer. The wind shifts, bringing the scent of roses from the section of garden where the damask roses grow. These roses will not bloom for several weeks yet, but their canes are already showing the first tender green of new growth. Persian roses are famous throughout the world for their fragrance, used to create the rose water that flavors sweets and perfumes the air during celebrations. Your roses were planted by your father, who received the cuttings from a friend who lived near Shiraz, the city of gardens and poetry. Each plant was positioned carefully to receive the right amount of morning sun and afternoon shade, and to be protected from the harsh winds that sometimes blow down from the mountains in winter. Gulnar appears at the kitchen door, her footsteps soft on the gravel path. She carries a tray with your morning tea, the brass service gleaming in the early light. The tray itself is a work of art, hammered and engraved by craftsmen in Isfahan, its surface decorated with calligraphy that quotes the poetry of Hafez, verses about the intoxication of divine love. "Good morning, master," she says softly, her voice carrying a musical accent of her mountain village. "The tea is ready, and I have prepared honey cakes with almonds. You smell the tea before she reaches you, the warm fragrance of black tea leaves grown in the gardens of Gilan, where the climate is warm and moist, perfect for cultivating the delicate plants. Mixed with the tea is the golden scent of saffron and the cool fragrance of cardamom pods that were cracked just moments before brewing." "Thank you, Gulnar," you reply, your voice still soft with the remnants of sleep. "Please, sit with me for a moment. Tell me what you see in the garden this morning." She sets the tray on the small table beside the bench, the brass making a soft chiming sound as it touches the marble surface. You hear her settle beside you, her cotton robes rustling like leaves in the breeze. "The narcissus flowers have opened even more since yesterday," she begins, her voice taking on the quality of wonder that always enters it when she describes the garden. They seem to glow in the morning light, like small moons scattered across the green grass, and the cypress trees, They stand so tall and dark against the pale sky, like guardians watching over the garden. The cypress trees in your garden are ancient, planted by the family who built this house over a century ago. These trees are sacred in Persian tradition, representing eternity and the connection between earth and heaven. Their dark, arrow-straight forms create vertical lines that balance the horizontal spread of the flower beds and the circular shape of the fountain. Gulnar continues her description, painting pictures with her words that help you see the garden through her young eyes. She tells you about the way the light falls through the pomegranate tree, creating patterns of shadow and brightness on the path below. About the small birds that have built their nest in the climbing rose, and how they dart in and out among the thorns with fearless grace. The pomegranate tree is heavy with developing fruit, though it will be many months before the red orbs are ready for harvest. Pomegranates are symbols of fertility and abundance in Persian culture, their seeds representing the countless blessings that flow from the divine source. The tree was planted near the southern wall of the Arden, where it receives full sun during the growing season, but is protected from the cold winds of winter. You sip your tea slowly, savoring the complex flavors that bloom across your tongue. The saffron adds a subtle sweetness, while the cardamom provides a cooling contrast that awakens your senses. The tea itself is strong and rich, with the deep, satisfying flavor that comes from leaves that were picked at the perfect moment, when the morning dew still clung to their surfaces. The honey cakes that Gulnar prepared are small and delicate, made with flour ground from wheat grown in the valley below your house, and sweetened with honey gathered from beehives kept in the apricot orchard. The almonds were blanched and sliced thin, then toasted until they released their sweet, nutty fragrance. Each cake is a small work of art, shaped by hand and baked until golden brown. As you eat, you listen to the sounds of the morning deepening around you. More birds join the chorus now, their songs creating a complex symphony of trills and calls. You recognize the voice of the nightingale that nests in the jasmine vine, its song so beautiful that Persian poets have used it for centuries as a symbol of the soul's longing for divine union. The wind continues its gentle conversation with the leaves of the trees, creating a sound like whispered prayers. It moves through the house as well, flowing through the wind-catcher towers, down through the rooms, and out again through the lower vents, carrying away the stale air of night and replacing it with the fresh sweetness of dawn. Gulnar tells you about the way the morning light makes the fountain water sparkle, like liquid diamonds falling from the carved stone spouts. The water comes from the qanat system that was built by your grandfather's generation, a marvel of engineering that brings mountain water through underground channels, maintaining its coolness and purity, even during the hottest days of summer. The qanat system required years of careful planning and dangerous work, with men called muqanis digging the underground channels by hand, following the gentle slope that would allow water to flow by gravity alone. Some of these channels stretch for many miles, connecting your house and garden to springs high in the mountains, where snow melts, feed streams that disappear into the earth, only to emerge again in your courtyard fountain. The sun climbs higher now, and you feel its warmth beginning to touch your face. The morning coolness will last for another hour or two, but already you can sense the promise of the heat that will build as the day progresses. This is the rhythm of desert life. Cool mornings and evenings, bracketing the intense heat of midday. A rhythm that shapes the architecture, the gardens, and the daily routines of all who live in this land. You finish your tea and set the delicate glass cup back on its brass saucer, listening to the soft chime of crystal against metal. The cup was blown by craftsmen in the workshops of Shiraz, its surface etched with tiny flowers, so delicate they seem to float in the glass itself. The brass saucer bears calligraphy in the flowing Nastaliq script, verses from Rumi about the intoxication of divine love. Gulnar, you say softly, please prepare the scriptorium for this morning's work. I feel verses stirring in my mind, like birds preparing to take flight. She rises immediately, understanding the urgency that sometimes comes with poetic inspiration. Yes, master. Shall I prepare the reed pens and ink and lay out fresh paper? You nod, already feeling the words beginning to form in your consciousness, like water gathering behind a dam, waiting for the moment of release. Poetry comes to you differently now than it did before you lost your sight. Then, you would often begin with visual images, describing the play of light on water or the exact shade of a rose petal. Now, your poems emerge from the deeper sense, from the texture of sound, the architecture of fragrance, the emotional weight of silence. As Gulnar hurries toward the house, her footsteps quick and light on the gravel path, you remain seated beside the fountain, letting your mind settle into the receptive state that precedes composition. The water continues its eternal conversation, and the wind moves through the garden like a gentle hand stroking the earth into wakefulness. You think about the dreams that visited you during the night, images and sensations that swirled through your sleeping mind like leaves caught in an eddy of wind. There was water in those dreams, always water, flowing through landscapes that existed somewhere between memory and imagination. And there were voices, speaking in languages you recognized, but could not quite understand, as if you were hearing echoes of conversations held in rooms just beyond the reach of consciousness. The narcissus fragrance grows stronger as the flowers warm in the strengthening sunlight, releasing their perfume in waves that rise and fall with each shift of the breeze. This fragrance has the power to transport you across time, back to childhood mornings when you would wake to your mother's voice calling from the garden, inviting you to come and see which flowers had opened during the night. Your mother understood gardens in a way that went beyond mere cultivation. She could sense what each plant needed, when to water and when to let the soil dry, when to prune and when to let growth continue unchecked. She taught you that gardening was a form of prayer, a way of participating in the divine creativity that brings forth life from apparent emptiness. Transplant the tiniest seedlings without disturbing their roots. And she knew the healing properties of every herb that grew in the garden. It was your mother who first introduced you to the world of medicinal plants, teaching you to recognize pennyroyal by its sharp scent, mint by its cooling touch, and lavender by the way its fragrance seemed to calm both body and mind. Even now, when illness visits your household, you turn to the remedies she taught you, brewing teas from dried herbs, preparing poultices from fresh leaves, following the wisdom passed down through generations of Persian healers. The sun is fully above the eastern wall of the garden now, and you can feel its rays beginning to warm the stone beneath you. This is the signal for the morning activities to begin in earnest throughout the neighborhood. You hear the sound of wooden wheels rolling over cobblestones as the first cart of the day makes its way toward the bazaar, loaded with produce from the outlying farms. From the direction of the village, comes the rhythmic sound of the blacksmith's hammer, ringing against iron in the steady beat that will continue throughout the day. The smith is making horseshoes, or perhaps repair hinges for doors and shutters, or creating the small metal objects that make daily life possible in a world where everything useful must be shaped by human hands. The wind brings the sound of children's voices as they make their way to the madrasa, where they will spend the morning learning to read and write Arabic script, memorizing verses from the Quran, and studying the mathematics that underlies the geometric patterns in Islamic art. Their voices are bright with the energy of youth, unmarked by the weight of years or the burden of adult responsibilities. You rise from the marble bench, feeling the slight stiffness that comes from sitting still in the cool morning air. Your body moves more slowly than it once did, but with a deliberation that has its own grace. Age has taught you the value of mindful movement, of paying attention to each step, each gesture, each breath. As you walk toward the house, you trail your hand along the low wall that borders the main garden path. This wall is built of adobe bricks, made from clay and straw, shaped and fired in the kilns outside the village. The surface has been plastered with lime mortar, creating a smooth texture that is pleasant to touch, and painted with a pale blue pigment made from powdered lapis lazuli mixed with egg white. The blue color is not merely decorative, but serves a practical purpose as well. In Persian tradition, blue is believed to ward off the evil eye, protecting the garden and all who dwell within it from jealousy and malicious thoughts. The color also has a cooling effect on the eye, making the garden feel more refreshing during the heat of summer days. Your hand encounters the wooden door that leads into the house, its surface carved with the same intricate patterns that decorate your clothes chest. The wood is warm from the morning sun, and you can feel the slight swelling that comes with the change in humidity as the day progresses. This door was made by a carpenter who learned his trade from his father, who learned from his father before him, passing down techniques that have remained unchanged for centuries. Inside the house, the air is cooler and more still. Though the wind continues to move through the upper levels via the wind-catcher towers, you can hear Gulnar moving about in the scriptorium, preparing the materials for your morning's work. The sound of her activities is accompanied by her soft humming, the same melody you heard earlier about the princess in her castle of moonlight. A scriptorium is your favorite room in the house, located on the upper level where it receives the best light, though light is no longer relevant to your work. The room faces north, toward the mountains, and its windows are designed to provide steady illumination throughout the day without the harsh glare of direct sunlight that might damage delicate manuscripts and papers. The walls of the scriptorium are lined with shelves, built of cedar wood to protect the books and papers from insects and moisture. These shelves hold your collection of manuscripts, works by the great Persian poets, philosophical treatises, books of medicine and astronomy, and copies of your own verses that Gulnar has transcribed in her careful hand. The writing desk is positioned beneath the largest window, though you now work by touch rather than sight. The desk itself is a masterpiece of Persian woodworking, made from walnut wood inlaid with ebony and mother of pearl in geometric patterns that represent the mathematical principles underlying all creation. The surface is worn smooth by years of use, marked with the invisible traces of thousands of words that have flowed from your mind through your hand onto paper. You climb the stairs slowly, your hand gliding along the polished wood of the banister. Each step is made from a single piece of wood, fitted so precisely that no nails or other fasteners were needed. The stairs were built by the same master carpenter who made your door, using techniques that require years of training to master, but which result in construction that can last for centuries. At the top of the stairs, the wind from the wind catchers is more noticeable, creating a gentle circulation of air that keeps the upper rooms comfortable, even during the hottest days. The towers themselves are architectural marvels, designed to capture even the slightest breeze and channel it down through the house, providing natural cooling that requires no fuel or maintenance, only the cooperation of wind and human ingenuity. You pause at the doorway of the scriptorium, breathing in the familiar scents of paper, ink, and the cedar wood of the shelves. These scents speak to you of the world of words and ideas, the realm where your blindness is no handicap, where your mind can travel freely through landscapes of imagination and memory. Gulnar has prepared everything perfectly, as she always does. You can smell the particular fragrance of fresh ink, made from carbon black mixed with gum arabic and water, the same recipe that has been used by scribes and calligraphers for over 1,000 years. The reed pens have been cut and shaped, their tips prepared to the exact specifications that your hand requires for the flowing movements of Persian script. The paper waits in neat stacks, each sheet made by hand from cotton and linen fibers, beaten to pulp and formed into sheets of perfect smoothness and strength. This paper was made in the workshops of Samarkand, where craftsmen have perfected the art of papermaking to a degree that rivals the finest work done anywhere in the world. You settle into your familiar chair, its cushions shaped by years of use to fit your body perfectly. The chair was made by the same carpenter who built your desk and stairs, designed with armrests at exactly the right height to support your arms while writing, and with a back that provides support without interfering with the movement of your shoulders. Your fingers find the first sheet of paper, feeling its smooth texture, its perfect weight. Paper of this quality is expensive, but you use it freely, understanding that poetry deserves to be written on materials worthy of its beauty. Each sheet represents the work of many hands, from the farmers who grew the cotton and flax, to the craftsmen who transformed raw fibers into this perfect writing surface. The reed pen feels familiar in your hand, its weight and balance as familiar as your own heartbeat. You dip it carefully in the ink, feeling the slight resistance as the liquid clings to the reed, preparing to flow in the controlled patterns that will transform your thoughts into visible words. But before you begin to write, you sit quietly for a moment, letting your mind settle into the receptive state that allows poetry to emerge. You listen to the sounds of the morning, the fountain in the courtyard below, the wind moving through the house, the distant voices from the village, all weaving together into a complex symphony that provides the background music for your creative work. The verses that have been stirring in your consciousness begin to take more definite form, like flowers opening in the warmth of the sun. They speak of water and wind, of fragrance and memory. of the way blindness has opened inner landscapes more vivid than anything your eyes ever showed you. These poems will join the others in your growing collection, adding their voices to the conversation between past and present, between the seen and unseen worlds. As you prepare to touch pen to paper, the wind shifts once more, bringing a fresh wave of narcissus fragrance through the window. This scent carries you back to the moment of waking, to the gentle emergence from sleep into consciousness, to the eternal cycle of darkness and light that shapes all existence. The morning is deepening around you, settling into its own rhythm as the sun climbs higher, and the activities of daily life begin in earnest throughout the neighborhood. But here, in your scriptorium, surrounded by the tools of your craft and the familiar scents of paper and ink, you exist in a different realm altogether. A place where time moves according to the rhythms of inspiration, where words flow like water, finding its natural course. The wind settles into a gentler pattern now, no longer the restless movement of early morning, but the steady breath of a day finding its stride. Your body relaxes into the familiar posture of writing. Your mind opens to receive whatever gifts the morning may bring, and the house around you settles into the peaceful hush that speaks of contentment, of harmony between human needs and the natural world. The fountain continues its eternal song in the courtyard below. The narcissus releases its perfume to the warming air, and somewhere in the distance, the nightingale practices scales of pure beauty that seem to arise from the very heart of creation itself. This is the world you inhabit now, a world shaped more by sound and scent and the subtle textures of experience than by the crude realm of visual appearance. And in this moment, as your hand hovers above the paper, as the morning wind moves through your hair like a gentle blessing, you feel the familiar stirring that announces the arrival of poetry. That mysterious process by which the invisible becomes visible. The unspoken finds its voice, and the human heart discovers new ways to sing its ancient songs of longing and gratitude and wonder. The wind grows softer now, settling into the gentle rhythm that will carry it through the remainder of the morning. Your breathing slows to match its pace. Your heartbeat finds harmony with the falling water of the fountain, and your mind opens like a flower to receive whatever gifts this day may bring. The house around you seems to exhale, releasing the last vestiges of night's dreams, welcoming the fresh possibilities that arrive with each new dawn. The walls settle with small creaking sounds. The floors adjust to the changing temperature, and the whole structure seems to come alive with the quiet energy of a new day beginning. Outside your window, the garden continues its eternal dance of growth and change, of opening and releasing, of the endless cycle that connects all living things in patterns too complex and beautiful for the human mind to fully comprehend. But here, in this moment, surrounded by the tools of your craft and the familiar rhythms of home, you are content to be a small part of this vast symphony, adding your voice to the chorus that has been singing since the world began. The wind settles completely now, becoming a whisper rather than a song, a gentle presence that barely disturbs the leaves of the trees or the surface of the fountain pool. Your body begins to relax into the deeper rhythms of rest. Your breathing grows slower and more regular, and the tensions of waking gradually dissolve into the peaceful stillness that precedes sleep. The scent of narcissus becomes fainter now, no longer the bold announcement of morning, but the gentle reminder of beauty that persists even as consciousness fades. The sounds of the house grow softer, more distant, until they become part of the texture of dreams rather than the architecture of waking life. And slowly, gradually, as the wind settles into complete stillness, as the morning light grows steady and warm, as the fountain finds its most peaceful rhythm, you feel yourself being carried on the current of contentment toward that place where thoughts dissolve into pure being, where the poet's restless mind finds its rest in the vast silence that underlies all words. The wind settles, your body loosens beneath the soft cotton robes, and the hush of the house carries you gently, peacefully, into a deep, restful sleep. Chapter 2. The Garden's Secret Language. You wake to the sound of water, speaking in tongues you almost understand. The fountain in your courtyard has found its afternoon voice, deeper than its morning song, more complex in its rhythms as the flow adjusts to the warmth that has built throughout the day. Your writing session ended hours ago, though the memory of it lingers like the ghost of fragrance after flowers have been removed from a room. The verses that emerged onto paper this morning surprised you with their clarity, their way of capturing the essence of blindness, not as absence, but as a different kind of seeing, a way of perceiving the world through textures and temperatures, through the weight of silence and the color of sound. Now the day has settled into its middle hours, that time when the heat builds to its daily crescendo, when most activity retreats to the cool interior spaces, when gardens become places of refuge rather than work. But for you, this is the perfect time to explore the green sanctuary that surrounds your house, to discover what secrets the afternoon heat might reveal. You rise from the low divan where you have been resting, feeling the slight indentations left by your body in the cotton-stuffed cushions. These cushions were covered with fabric woven in kashan, their patterns depicting stylized peacocks and flowering trees in colors that shift between blue and green like water reflecting sky. The cotton filling came from plants grown in the irrigated fields near Yazd, where the desert blooms each spring when the snowmelt flows down from the distant mountains. Your feet find the familiar path across the carpet, a masterpiece of Persian weaving that took 3 years to complete on the looms of Isfahan. The wool was dyed with indigo and madder, saffron and pomegranate rind, creating colors so rich and subtle that they seem to glow with their own inner light. The pattern tells the story of a garden where every flower represents a different aspect of divine beauty, where geometric forms dance with flowing arabesques in eternal harmony. Each step across this carpet is like walking through a poem written in wool and silk, where every knot, tied by the weaver's fingers, holds a prayer, a hope, a small act of devotion to the pursuit of beauty. The surface has been softened by years of gentle use, creating a texture that speaks to your bare feet of countless journeys across this same path, of the accumulated weight of daily life lived in beauty. The door to the courtyard stands open, inviting the garden's afternoon breath into the cooler interior of the house. But the air that flows through this doorway is different now, from the fresh coolness of morning. It carries the heat-laden scents of earth and stone warming in the sun, the concentrated fragrance of herbs releasing their essential oils in the climbing temperature, the subtle perfume of water evaporating from leaf surfaces and fountain basins. You pause at the threshold, feeling the change in temperature against your skin. The morning's coolness has given way to the serious heat of a Persian spring day, the kind of warmth that makes every shadow precious, every breeze a gift from heaven. This is the heat that bakes the adobe walls of houses until they become thermal masses, storing warmth during the day and releasing it slowly through the cool hours of night. Your hand finds the doorframe, feeling the smooth wood that has expanded slightly in the warmth, the grain raised just enough to provide texture beneath your palm. This expansion and contraction is the breathing of the house, its way of adjusting to the rhythms of day and night, of season and weather, of the eternal dance between earth and sky. The first step into the courtyard brings an immediate awareness of the sun's power. Even though you cannot see its light, you feel its presence as a warm pressure against your face and hands, a force that seems to emanate from where? The very air itself. This is the same sun that has warmed Persian gardens for thousands of years, that has nurtured the roses of Shiraz and the melons of Khorasan, that has been celebrated in countless verses by poets who understood the divine nature of light. The gravel path crunches softly beneath your feet, each stone radiating heat like a tiny coal. These stones were cool and welcoming in the morning, but now they have absorbed hours of solar energy, transforming the pathway into a warm river flowing between islands of green. You walk more slowly now, savoring the heat that rises from below to meet the heat that presses from above. The fountain sounds different in this afternoon warmth, its voice somehow richer and more resonant. The water falls with the same rhythm, but the quality of the sound has changed, as if the heat has given it new harmonics, new depths of meaning. You understand now that this fountain is more than mere decoration. It is the heartbeat of the garden, the source of life that makes all other beauty possible in this land of little rain. As you approach the fountain, you become aware of a subtle shift in the air around you. The temperature drops by several degrees, not enough to eliminate the heat, but sufficient to create a pocket of relative coolness that draws you forward like a magnet. This is the microclimate that the fountain creates, a zone where evaporation provides natural cooling, where the sound of falling water tricks the mind into feeling refreshed even on the hottest days. You sit on the marble bench, feeling the stone's coolness through your robes, despite the heat of the day. This coolness comes from the thermal mass of the marble, its ability to absorb and hold coolness from the night, releasing it slowly throughout the day, even as the air temperature rises. The craftsman who carved this bench understood the physics of comfort, the ways that stone and water and carefully placed shade could create oases of relief in the desert heat. The water falls in 3 streams, as it did this morning, but now each stream seems to have its own personality, made more distinct by the heat. The central stream falls straight and true, creating a steady bass note that anchors the fountain's song. The 2 side streams are affected more by the slight breeze that has begun to stir the heated air, their voices dancing and weaving around the central theme, like variations in a musical composition. You close your eyes, though this gesture is more symbolic than practical. and let yourself sink into the complex soundscape that surrounds you. The fountain provides the dominant voice, but it is accompanied by a dozen subtler sounds. The whisper of wind through leaves, heated until they rustle with dry music. The distant hum of bees working the herb garden. The soft, settling sounds of wood and stone expanding in the warmth. The bees are particularly active now. They're buzzing, creating a constant background drone that speaks of industry and purpose. They are working the lavender that grows in the herb section of your garden, gathering nectar and pollen from the purple spikes that release their fragrance more freely in the heat. These bees live in hives kept by your neighbor, traditional clay cylinders that have been used for beekeeping in Persia for over 1,000 years. Honey from these hives is used throughout the neighborhood, not only as sweetening for tea and pastries, but also as medicine for wounds and sore throats, and as an ingredient in the cosmetics that Persian women have used since ancient times to keep their skin soft and beautiful. The honey carries the concentrated essence of your garden's flowers, distilled by the bees into liquid gold that captures the very soul of the growing season. The lavender they are working grows in neat rows along the eastern wall of the garden, where it receives morning sun but is shaded during the hottest part of the day. This herb came originally from the mountains of western Persia, where it grows wild on rocky slopes, but it has adapted beautifully to garden cultivation. The plants are pruned each autumn after the flowers fade, cutting them back to woody stems that will send out new growth with the first warm days of spring. Lavender has been used in Persian medicine for centuries, valued for its ability to calm the nerves and promote restful sleep. The dried flowers are sewn into small cloth bags and placed among stored linens, where they discourage moths while imparting their clean, soothing fragrance. Oil distilled from lavender flowers is used to treat headaches and minor cuts, and is added to bath water for its relaxing properties. A gentle breeze stirs the heated air, bringing the concentrated scent of herbs to your nostrils. But this is not the simple lavender fragrance you might expect. The heat has caused all the herbs in the garden to release their essential oils, creating a complex bouquet that changes and shifts as the air moves. You smell the sharp green of mint, the bitter sweetness of wormwood, the clean brightness of pennyroyal, all blended into a perfume that could never be created artificially. The mint grows in a shaded corner where the soil stays moist from overflow from the fountain's basin. Persian mint is different from the varieties grown in cooler climates, more intense in flavor, with a sharper edge that cuts through the richness of the lamb and rice dishes that form the basis of local cuisine. The leaves are picked fresh throughout the growing season, used to make cooling teas that help the mint tea is served in small glasses, sweetened with honey or sugar, sometimes flavored with a few drops of rosewater. The preparation is a ritual in itself. The tea steeped to exactly the right strength, served at precisely the correct temperature, accompanied by small cakes or dates stuffed with nuts. This tea is more than refreshment. It is a symbol of hospitality, a way of showing care and respect for guests. The wormwood grows near the herb garden's center, its silver-gray leaves creating a visual, cool spot even in the heat of the day. This plant is valued for its medicinal properties, particularly its ability to aid digestion and ease stomach troubles. The leaves are dried and ground into powder, then mixed with honey to create a medicine that is both bitter and sweet, reflecting the dual nature of healing itself. But wormwood must be used carefully, as its powerful compounds can be dangerous in large quantities. Your mother taught you to respect this plant, to use it sparingly and with full awareness of its potency. This respect for the power of plants is fundamental to Persian herbal medicine, which recognizes that the same substances that can heal can also harm if used without wisdom and restraint. The pennyroyal sends up its sharp, almost medicinal fragrance on waves of heated air. This herb is particularly prized by women for its ability to regulate feminine cycles and ease monthly discomfort. It grows in small clusters throughout the herb garden, its tiny leaves releasing their scent at the slightest touch. Like wormwood, pennyroyal demands respect and is used only by those who understand its properties fully. You rise from the marble bench and begin to walk slowly along the gravel paths, letting your feet choose the direction while your other senses explore the garden's afternoon secrets. The heat creates a different relationship with the space, making every shadow a destination, every breath of cooler air a small miracle. This is how desert peoples have learned to live, not fighting the heat, but moving with it, finding comfort in adaptation rather than resistance. Your path leads you toward the rose section of the garden, where the damask roses are beginning to show their first tight buds. These roses will not bloom for several weeks yet, but already you can sense their presence, a subtle fragrance that speaks of beauty yet to come. The heat seems to awaken something in the rose canes, a stirring of sap and growth hormone that prepares them for the magnificent flowering that will transform this section of the garden into paradise itself. Persian roses are famous throughout the known world for their fragrance and beauty. The variety in your garden was brought from Damascus centuries ago by traders traveling the Silk Road, but it has adapted so completely to Persian soil and climate that it seems native to this land. The flowers, when they finally appear, will be pale pink with edges that deepen to rose. Their petals so delicate, they seem to be made of silk. But it is the fragrance that makes these roses legendary. The scent is complex and layered, beginning with a sweet, honey-like top note that gradually reveals deeper, more mysterious undertones. This fragrance becomes more intense as the petals age, reaching its peak just before the flowers begin to fade. It is this perfectly timed intensity that makes Persian roses ideal for creating rosewater and attar of roses. Rosewater is made by distilling fresh rose petals in copper stills, a process that requires perfect timing and great skill. The petals must be picked in the early morning, before the heat of the day has caused them to lose their moisture and essential oils. The distillation process takes hours, with the distiller constantly monitoring the temperature and adjusting the flow of cooling water to ensure that the delicate fragrance compounds are captured rather than destroyed. The resulting rosewater is used throughout Persian cuisine, flavoring rice puddings and sugar confections, adding its floral note to savory dishes that might otherwise be overwhelmed by strong spices. But rosewater is more than a flavoring. It is considered to have cooling and soothing properties, making it valuable during the hot months when the body needs all possible help in staying comfortable. Attar of roses is even more precious than rosewater, requiring pounds of rose petals to produce a single ounce of the concentrated essential oil. This attar is used as perfume, but sparingly, as its intensity can be overwhelming. A single drop rubbed on the wrists or behind the ears is sufficient to provide fragrance that will last throughout the day. growing more complex and beautiful as it warms on the skin. You kneel beside one of the rose bushes, feeling the warmth radiating from the sun-heated earth around its roots. The soil here is a carefully prepared mixture of clay and sand, enriched with composted manure from the goats that graze in the hills above the village. This soil provides the perfect balance of drainage and moisture retention, allowing the roots to spread freely while ensuring they never stand in water during the brief but intense rains of spring. Your fingers trace the outline of a developing bud, feeling its tight wrapping of protective sepals, sensing the compressed potential that lies within. This bud contains all the genetic information needed to create a flower of breathtaking beauty. But it also requires the cooperation of soil and sun, of careful watering and protection from harsh winds, of all the small acts of care that make cultivation possible. The thorns of the rosebush are sharp and perfectly placed to protect the developing buds from browsing animals. But these thorns serve another purpose as well. They help to support the long canes, allowing them to climb and spread without breaking under their own weight. Everything about this plant reflects the perfect adaptation that comes from thousands of years of natural selection and careful breeding. A butterfly lands on your hand, its wings moving slowly in the heat, seeking whatever coolness it can find. You remain perfectly still, not wanting to disturb this small visitor, feeling the delicate touch of its feet against your skin. Butterflies are drawn to Persian gardens not only by the flowers, but also by the design itself, which creates the varied microclimates and food sources they need to complete their life cycles. This butterfly is likely attracted by the buddleia that grows near the garden's southern wall, a shrub covered with purple flower spikes that produce nectar beloved by butterflies throughout the region. The buddleia blooms from late spring through early autumn, providing a consistent source of food during the insect's most active months. Its fragrance is sweet and slightly medicinal, adding another layer to the garden's complex scent signature. The butterfly takes flight again, its wings catching the heated air currents that rise from the sun-warmed stones of the path. You watch its erratic flight pattern through your other senses, hearing the faint whisper of its wings, feeling the tiny disturbance it creates in the air around you, sensing its presence as a small movement in the garden's larger symphony of life. Heat waves begin to rise from the gravel paths, creating subtle distortions in the air that you can feel even though you cannot see them. These waves carry scent upward, mixing and blending the garden's fragrances in new combinations, creating perfume compositions that exist only in this moment, in this particular combination of temperature and humidity and air pressure. Cypress trees that stand sentinel around the garden's perimeter create columns of relative coolness, their dense foliage providing shade that offers genuine relief from the sun's intensity. These trees are ancient, their roots extending deep into the earth to tap water sources far below the surface. Their trunks, scarred by decades of growth and weather, but still rising straight and true toward the sky. Cypress wood is prized for its durability and resistance to insects, making it ideal for construction in a climate where termites and other wood-eating pests can destroy ordinary timber within a few seasons. The wood has a distinctive scent, clean and resinous, that grows stronger when the tree is heated by intense sunlight. This scent is said to have cleansing properties, purifying both air and spirit. In Persian poetry, The cypress represents the beloved's tall, straight form, while its dark color symbolizes the mystery and depth of divine love. Poets often describe walking in cypress groves as a form of meditation, where the regular spacing of the trees and their uniform height create a natural cathedral that encourages contemplation and prayer. You walk into the shade of the largest cypress, feeling the immediate relief as the temperature drops several degrees. The ground here is carpeted with fallen needles, creating a soft, springy surface that releases a fresh, green scent when disturbed. This natural carpet also helps to retain moisture, creating a small ecosystem that supports plants and insects that could not survive in the full heat of the open garden. A small lizard darts across the path in front of you, its movement so quick that you sense it more through vibration than sound. These lizards are common in Persian gardens, where they help control insects while remaining harmless to plants and humans. They spend the hottest part of the day hidden in cool crevices, emerging in late afternoon to hunt for the small insects that become active as the temperature begins to drop. The presence of lizards in a garden is considered a good sign, indicating that the ecosystem is healthy and balanced. They require clean water, adequate shelter, and sufficient food supply, all of which suggest that the garden is providing proper habitat for a wide range of creatures. Your garden has always supported a thriving population of lizards, along with birds, butterflies, and the countless smaller creatures that make up the invisible foundation of garden life. As you stand in the cypress shade, you become aware of a new sound, the soft splash of a bird bathing in the fountain's basin. The sound is different from the fountain's normal voice, more irregular, accompanied by small chirps and calls of what sounds like pure pleasure. Birds are drawn to gardens not only for food, but also for the water that is often scarce in the surrounding landscape. The bird, likely a finch or small thrush, seems unaware of your presence as it continues its bath, sending small sprays of water in all directions. You can hear the droplets landing on the stone rim of the basin, on the surface of the pool, on the bird's own feathers as it shakes and preens. This is one of the sounds of contentment, the voice of a creature fully engaged in the simple pleasure of clean, cool water on a warm day. Water is precious in this land, and providing it for wildlife is considered an act of charity that brings blessings to the household. The fountain in your garden serves this purpose throughout the year. Its constant flow, ensuring that birds and small animals always have access to clean, fresh water. During the driest months of summer, your fountain may be the only reliable water source for miles around. The bird finishes its bath and flies away, its wings creating small air currents that you feel as gentle touches against your face. In its place comes the sound of bees, drawn to the fountain not only for water, but also for the mineral salts that dissolve from the marble basin, providing nutrients they need for healthy hive development. Bees understand water in ways that humans often do not, recognizing the difference between pure water and water that contains the dissolved minerals essential for their survival. They will travel considerable distances to reach water sources that provide the right balance of elements, often returning to the same location day after day throughout the flying season. The sound of bees around water is different from their sound in flowers. more purposeful, less musical. They land carefully on the basin's rim, extending their proboscis to draw up water that they will carry back to the hive in their honey stomach, later regurgitating it to provide moisture for honey production and temperature regulation within the hive structure. You leave the cypress shade and continue your slow circuit of the garden, moving from shadow to sunlight and back to shadow, learning the rhythm of heat and relief that shapes summer life in the Persian countryside. Each transition teaches you something new about your body's response to temperature, about the way shade affects not only comfort, but also the perception of scent and sound. In the full sun, fragrances become concentrated and intense, sometimes almost overwhelming in their power. The jasmine that will bloom later in the season is already beginning to develop the oil glands that will produce its legendary scent, and the heat draws out hints of this future fragrance like a preview of beauties yet to come. Jasmine flowers open at night, releasing their perfume into the cool evening air when moths and other night-flying pollinators are active. But the plant prepares for this nightly performance throughout the day, using the sun's energy to manufacture the complex chemical compounds that create its distinctive scent. The heat you feel now is part of this process, the solar energy being converted into aromatic molecules that will enchant the darkness. Persian jasmine is different from the varieties grown in cooler climates, more intense and complex in its fragrance, with undertones that seem to shift and change as the night progresses. The flowers are small and star-shaped, pure white with yellow centers, but their scent can perfume an entire garden and drift on night breezes to houses hundreds of yards away. The anticipation of jasmine's evening blooming adds another layer to the garden's afternoon experience. The knowledge that as the heat of day gradually gives way to the coolness of evening, as the light fades and shadows lengthen, the garden will transform into something entirely different, a realm ruled by fragrance rather than sight, by the mysterious beauty of night-blooming flowers. But that transformation is still hours away. For now, the garden belongs to the heat and light, to the sounds of day-flying insects, and the scents of sun-warmed herbs, to the particular beauty that emerges only when the sun reaches its full strength and the earth responds with concentrated life. You walk toward the pomegranate tree, where the developing fruit hangs like small lanterns among the glossy green leaves. The pomegranates are still small and hard, months away from the deep red ripeness that will make them ready for harvest. But already they show the characteristic crown-like calyx that gives this fruit its association with royalty and divine authority. Pomegranates have been cultivated in Persia for over 3,000 years, prized not only for their beauty and flavor, but also for their symbolic significance. The many seeds within each fruit represent abundance and fertility, while the crown-like calyx symbolizes divine authority. In Persian art, pomegranates often appear in textile patterns and architectural decorations as symbols of prosperity and divine blessing. The tree itself is well adapted to the Persian climate, tolerating both intense heat and considerable drought once established. Its deep root system allows it to tap water sources far below the surface, while its waxy leaves reduce water loss through evaporation. The tree produces two types of flowers, some that will develop into fruit, and others that exist only to provide pollen. ensuring genetic diversity and healthy fruit development. Under the pomegranate tree, the air is filled with the sound of insects. Not just bees, but also flies and beetles drawn by the tree's flowers and developing fruit. These insects form part of the complex web of relationships that make a garden possible. Pollinating flowers, controlling pest populations, breaking down organic matter to enrich the soil, performing countless small services that support the larger system. You sit on a small stone bench placed beneath the pomegranate tree, feeling the filtered sunlight that penetrates the canopy above. This light is different from the direct sun of the open paths, softer and more varied as it moves through the leaves, creating a constantly changing pattern of warmth and coolness across your skin. The bench itself is made from local stone, carved with simple geometric patterns that provide texture without distraction. From this position, you can hear the garden's full afternoon symphony, the fountain's voice mingling with the sound of bees and flies, the whisper of wind through heated leaves, the distant calls of birds in neighboring gardens, the soft, settling sounds of wood and stone expanding in the heat. Each sound contributes to a composition that is never exactly the same from one moment to the next, yet maintains an underlying harmony that speaks of natural order and balance. The stone beneath you radiates warmth, absorbed from hours of filtered sunlight, but this warmth is gentle and comforting rather than overwhelming. Stone has the ability to moderate temperature, absorbing excess heat during the day and releasing it gradually as the air cools, creating a thermal buffer that makes outdoor living more comfortable throughout the daily cycle of temperature change. Persian architects have understood these properties for centuries, using stone and adobe and other thermal mass materials to create buildings that remain comfortable without artificial heating or cooling. The garden benches, fountain basins, and pathway stones all serve as thermal regulators, helping to create the microclimates that make different areas of the garden suitable for different plants and activities. A slight breeze stirs the pomegranate leaves above you, creating a rustling sound that speaks of the air beginning its subtle shift toward evening patterns. This breeze is still warm, carrying the accumulated heat of sun-baked stone and earth, but it hints at the cooling that will begin in a few hours when the sun's angle changes and shadows begin to lengthen. The breeze brings new scents from different parts of the garden, the green freshness of mint mingled with the medicinal sharpness of wormwood, the honey-sweet promise of future rose blooms mixed with the clean brightness of lavender. These scents combine and separate, blend and contrast, creating an olfactory landscape that changes as constantly as the visual landscape of light and shadow. You close your eyes and let yourself sink deeper into this sensory environment, allowing the heat and sound and fragrance to penetrate your consciousness without analysis or interpretation. This is a form of meditation that blindness has taught you. The ability to exist fully in the present moment without the distraction of visual processing. To experience the world as a flow of sensation rather than a collection of objects to be identified and categorized. In this state, the boundary between self and garden begins to blur. The warmth you feel becomes indistinguishable from the warmth of the stone and earth around you. The sounds you hear seem to arise from within your own consciousness rather than from external sources. The fragrances you breathe become part of your own essence, transforming your body into a living flower that contributes its own subtle perfume to the garden's complex bouquet. This dissolution of boundaries is what the Sufi poets wrote about when they described the experience of divine union. The moment when the lover and beloved become one, when the seeker and sought merge into a single reality that transcends all duality. The garden becomes a metaphor for this spiritual state, where every flower represents an aspect of divine beauty, where every breeze carries messages from the realm beyond the visible world. Time seems to slow in this heat-drugged afternoon atmosphere, each moment stretching to contain vast experiences of sensation and meaning. The fountain's voice becomes a mantra, the bees humming a sacred chant, the rustle of leaves a whispered prayer. You understand that you are participating in something ancient and eternal, the daily miracle by which earth and sun and water conspire to create beauty from apparent emptiness. The heat reaches its daily peak now, the sun directly overhead, shadows reduced to small pools of coolness directly beneath trees and structures. This is the moment when the garden reveals its most closely guarded secrets, when the intensity of sensation breaks through the normal barriers of consciousness, when the boundary between dreaming and waking becomes permeable. In this heightened state, you begin to perceive patterns and connections that are usually invisible. The way the fountain's rhythm synchronizes with your heartbeat, the way the garden's fragrance mingles with your own breath until you cannot tell where you end and the world begins, the way the heat creates a kind of trance state that opens doorways to deeper levels of awareness. You realize that the garden is not simply a collection of plants arranged for human pleasure, but a living mandala, a sacred diagram that maps the relationship between earth and heaven, between the material and spiritual realms, between the individual soul and the cosmic consciousness that pervades all existence. Every element has been placed with intention. Every relationship carefully balanced to create harmony between opposing forces. The heat begins to shimmer in visible waves now. Even though you cannot see them directly, you feel their presence as distortions in the air around you, as subtle changes in the way sound travels, as variations in the quality of fragrance, as scented molecules rise and fall with the thermal currents. The garden is becoming a kind of cathedral made of light and heat, where every breath is a prayer and every moment a revelation. Gradually, as the sun begins its imperceptible shift toward the western horizon, you become aware that the day is beginning its slow transformation toward evening. The change is subtle at first, a barely perceptible shift in the quality of the heat, a slight modification in the garden's acoustic signature, a hint of evening's approach carried on air currents still hours away from coolness. But these small changes signal the beginning of the daily miracle of transition, the slow rotation from day's intense activity toward night's restorative peace, from the realm of heat and bright sensation toward the cooler world of shadow and dream. The garden will soon begin its preparation for evening's different beauty, for the opening of night-blooming flowers and the songs of nocturnal creatures. You rise from the stone bench, feeling slightly dizzy from the heat and the depth of your meditation, your body needing a moment to readjust to movement and action. The pomegranate leaves whisper overhead as a slight breeze stirs the heated air, and you understand that this whisper is the garden's way of welcoming you back from your journey into the realm beyond ordinary consciousness. The path back toward the house seems longer now, the heat making each step a deliberate act of will, but also a form of walking meditation, where every movement becomes conscious and intentional. The gravel crunches beneath your feet with a sound that seems amplified in the still air, and you realize that the garden's afternoon silence is different from its morning quiet, deeper and more complete, as if all life has retreated into a state of suspended animation. Even the fountain sounds different now, its voice more subdued, as if the heat has affected the water itself, changing its density and flow characteristics in ways too subtle for ordinary perception, but clearly audible to ears trained by years of careful listening. The water falls with the same rhythm, but carries different harmonics, different emotional overtones that speak of the day's accumulated heat and light. As you approach the house, you feel the coolness that flows from the interior, drawn outward by the thermal differences created by thick adobe walls and the natural cooling system of the wind-catcher towers. This coolness reaches out to embrace you like welcoming arms, offering refuge from the intensity of the afternoon heat, promising the restorative peace that comes with shelter and shade. The transition from garden heat to interior coolness is like passing between different worlds. From the realm of intense sensation and spiritual opening to the quieter domain of reflection and integration. Your body adjusts gratefully to the lower temperature, while your mind begins the process of understanding and preserving the insights gained during your heat-induced meditation in the garden. The house receives you with its familiar scents and sounds. The smell of cool stone and cedar wood, the whisper of air moving through the wind-catcher system, the distant sound of Gulnar preparing the late afternoon refreshments that will help your body recover from its encounter with the day's heat. These domestic comforts take on new meaning after the intensity of your garden experience, becoming symbols of the human need for balance between expansion and contraction, between opening to the infinite and returning to the finite comforts of home. You settle onto the low divan where you rested earlier, feeling your body sink into the soft cushions with gratitude for their coolness and support. The afternoon light filtering through the latticed windows creates patterns you cannot see, but can sense through the varying warmth against your skin. A gentler version of the heat that dominates the garden at this hour. The memory of your garden meditation lingers, like the ghost of intense fragrance, not quite accessible to ordinary consciousness, but present nonetheless as a subtle alteration in your awareness, a sense that something important has shifted in your understanding of the relationship between self and world, between the seen and unseen dimensions of existence. This is how the garden teaches its deepest lessons, not through words or concepts, but through direct experience, through the gradual dissolution of boundaries that occurs when consciousness is exposed to beauty intense enough to overwhelm the normal categories of thought. The heat serves as both catalyst and solvent, breaking down the artificial separations that prevent recognition of the underlying unity that connects all things. As you rest in the cool interior, your body recovering from the afternoon's heat, while your spirit integrates the experience of garden meditation, you understand that this daily rhythm of expansion and contraction, of going out into intensity and returning to peaceful reflection, is itself a form of spiritual practice, a way of using the natural cycle of day and night to cultivate deeper levels of awareness and understanding. The garden waits outside, still shimmering in the afternoon heat, still offering its gifts to any consciousness brave enough to meet its intensity with openness and surrender. But for now, you are content to rest in coolness and shade, to let the lessons of heat and light settle into your bones, to prepare for the different revelations that will come with evening's approach. The wind that moves through the windcatcher towers carries whispers of the world beyond your garden walls, hints of the larger landscape where other gardens dream in the afternoon heat, where other fountains sing their eternal songs, where other souls discover the secret languages that only flowers and flowing water truly understand. And in this vast network of gardens and dreamers, your own small paradise takes its place as one note in the infinite symphony of beauty that makes existence itself a form of worship. The heat settles deeper now, reaching its daily crescendo, transforming the garden into a crucible where consciousness can be refined and purified through direct encounter with the essential forces that shape all life, and you, resting in coolness while your memory holds the fire of that encounter. Understand that you have been touched by something sacred, something that will continue to work its transformation long after the afternoon heat has given way to evening's gentle coolness. The fountain continues its eternal psalm. The bees continue their ancient work. The herbs continue their slow release of essential oils into the heated air. And somewhere in the depth of this ordinary miracle, the secret of existence reveals itself to any soul willing to listen with the ears of the heart, to see with the eyes of love, to understand with the wisdom that comes only from complete surrender to the mystery of being alive in a world where every breath is a gift and every moment a doorway to the infinite. The wind settles into the deeper rhythm of late afternoon. Your body relaxes into the familiar coolness of home. And the garden's secret language continues to whisper its teachings, carrying you gently toward the threshold of evening, where new revelations wait in the growing shadows, where different flowers will soon open to reveal their own particular forms of beauty and truth. Chapter 3. The Ritual of Saffron Tea. You rise slowly from the garden bench, the silk of your robe whispering against the carved stone, and your bare feet find the cool pathway once more. The wind has gentled now, settling into a soft rhythm that matches your breathing. As you make your way toward the kitchen courtyard, your fingers trail along the familiar wall, feeling the smooth plaster that your grandfather's hands once shaped, each imperfection a memory beneath your touch. The surface is cool in the morning shadow, warming gradually where the first rays of sunlight have begun to kiss the eastern wall. In the distance, you hear the soft clatter of brass, the gentle movement of your household beginning their morning preparations. But you need no assistance for this ritual, this sacred dance of saffron and water that you have performed countless mornings, each one a meditation, each one a prayer. A kitchen courtyard welcomes you with its familiar scents, wood smoke from the tandoor where yesterday's bread was baked, the lingering sweetness of dried dates hanging in their woven baskets, and the sharp, clean smell of brass vessels polished smooth by generations of use. Your feet know every stone of this courtyard, worn smooth by centuries of footsteps. each one fitted perfectly to its neighbors without the use of mortar. In the ancient Persian way, the stones are warm now, having drunk in the first heat of the day, and they release it slowly, a gentle warmth that rises through your body. You reach for the brass samovar, its surface decorated with intricate patterns that your fingers have memorized. Delicate vines and flowers that spiral upward, each line a pathway for your touch. The metal is cool and heavy in your hands, filled yesterday evening with the pure mountain water that flows through your garden's underground channels, qanats that have carried life to this valley for 1,000 years. The charcoal in the samovar's inner chamber glows softly, tended through the night by your faithful servant, who understands that the poet's tea cannot wait for morning fires to be lit. The water is already warm, heated gently through the dark hours, ready for your morning ritual. You set the samovar carefully on its brass tray, the metal singing softly as it settles. A pure note that hangs in the air like incense. The sound reminds you of the bells in the Sufi monastery, where you sometimes go to listen to the whirling dervishes, their voices rising and falling like wind through wheat. Now comes the most sacred part, the preparation of the saffron itself. From a small wooden box, carved from precious sandalwood and lined with silk, you take a pinch of the golden threads. Each strand is perfect, harvested by gentle hands from the purple crocus flowers that bloom for only 3 weeks each. Autumn, in the fields outside Isfahan, 3 stamens from each flower, picked at dawn when the morning dew still clings to the petals, dried slowly in the shade until they become these precious golden threads. You hold them gently between your fingers, feeling their delicate texture, lighter than silk, more valuable than gold. The saffron releases its perfume as you warm it between your palms, a scent like honey and hay and distant mountains, like the breath of earth after rain. This is the soul of Persia in your hands, the gift of patient cultivation, of hands that work in harmony with the seasons, of knowledge passed down through generations like a sacred trust. You place the saffron threads on a small marble mortar, carved from a single piece of white stone quarried from the mountains near Shiraz. The pestle fits perfectly in your palm, worn smooth by countless mornings like this one, and you begin the gentle grinding, releasing the golden essence that will transform simple water into liquid poetry. The grinding is rhythmic, meditative, a soft whisper of stone against stone that mingles with the distant sound of wind in the date palms. You work slowly, patiently, feeling the saffron yield its secrets, becoming powder fine as desert sand, golden as the first light of dawn. A few drops of warm water from the samovar, just enough to awaken the sleeping saffron, to create a concentrated essence that glows like liquid amber in the marble bowl. The color deepens as you stir gently with a small silver spoon, handed down from your great-grandmother, who learned this ritual from her mother, who learned it from hers, an unbroken chain of morning devotions stretching back through time. The tea glass waits on its saucer, crystal clear and delicate, shaped like a tulip bud just beginning to open. These glasses came from the workshops of Herat, where master craftsmen blow glass so thin it sings when touched, so pure it makes the simplest water look like captured starlight. You pour the hot water slowly, watching with your inner eye as the golden saffron essence blooms through the clear liquid, spreading like sunrise through clouds, transforming transparency into luminous amber. The steam rises carrying the precious scent, warm and complex and infinitely comforting, a small cube of crystallized sugar, made from canes grown in the southern provinces where the soil is rich and dark, dissolves slowly in the hot tea. The sugar is formed into perfect cubes, each one a tiny work of art, clear as mountain ice and sweet as first love. You lift the glass carefully, feeling its warmth through the crystal, and breathe deeply of the rising steam. The saffron tea carries with it the essence of 1,000 autumn mornings, the patient work of countless hands, the blessing of earth and sun and human devotion. The first sip flows over your tongue like liquid silk, warm and golden and infinitely soothing. The saffron releases its subtle complexity, notes of honey and earth and distant spice, flavors that have inspired poets for centuries, that have warmed the hearts of kings and mystics alike. You settle onto a low cushion beside the fountain, the silk-covered pillow soft beneath you, stuffed with cotton that still carries the faint scent of the fields where it grew. The fountain's gentle splash provides a constant music, water falling from tier to tier of carved marble, each drop a note in an endless symphony. The tea warms you from within, spreading through your chest like captured sunlight, relaxing muscles you didn't know were tense, quieting thoughts that flutter like birds at twilight. This is more than mere refreshment. This is communion, connection with the earth that grew the saffron, with the hands that harvested it, with the tradition that shaped this moment. As you sip slowly, savoring each golden drop, you think of the poets who came before you, who sat in gardens like this one, who found inspiration in the simple act of preparing tea. Hafez himself might have performed this same ritual, grinding saffron in the morning light, finding in its golden color a perfect metaphor for divine love. The wind stirs again, carrying new scents from the garden. Jasmine beginning to open its evening blooms. Oh, the day is still young, the sweet green smell of grass drinking deeply from the irrigation channels, the dusty warmth of sun-baked earth. You rise and move toward your scriptorium, the tea glass warm in your hands, your feet finding the familiar path without thought. The scriptorium waits beyond an arched doorway, its wooden door carved with verses from the great poets. Words that have been polished smooth by countless fingers, by centuries of reverent touch. The room beyond is your sanctuary, your workshop, your temple of words. The walls are lined with niches, each one holding rolls of precious paper made from cotton and linen, bleached white as fresh snow, smooth as silk beneath the touch. Some scrolls contain your own work, poems composed in the darkness of deep night, when the house sleeps and only the poet wakens to catch dreams before they fade. Your writing desk is a low table, crafted from walnut wood that still carries the faint scent of the mountains where it grew. The surface is worn smooth by use, by the gentle pressure of countless poems being born, and it knows the shape of your hands, the rhythm of your work. Beside the desk, within easy reach, sit the tools of your craft. Reed pens cut from the banks of the Zayenda River, each one chosen for its perfect balance, its willingness to hold ink. Its ability to create lines both delicate and bold. The knife for cutting new pens lies beside them, its blade sharp as a whisper, its handle worn smooth by generations of use. The ink waits in a small bronze vessel, black as midnight, made from soot and gum and the patient work of skilled hands. This ink will not fade with time, will not surrender to sun or moisture, will carry your words forward through the centuries, a bridge between your soul and unknown readers yet to be born. You settle cross-legged on the carpet beside your desk, the silk and wool soft beneath you, woven in patterns that tell stories of their own, birds and flowers and geometric designs that speak of infinity, of the endless dance between order and beauty that defines all creation. The tea glass rests beside your writing hand, sending up gentle spirals of steam, the saffron scent mingling with the familiar smells of paper and ink, of wood and wool, and the faint trace of sandalwood incense that always lingers in this room. Your fingers find a fresh sheet of paper, feeling its texture, its eagerness to receive words, to become something more than mere fiber and pulp. The paper speaks to you of the cotton plants that gave their essence, of the clear streams where it was washed, of the skilled hands that formed it sheet by precious sheet. You dip your reed pen in the ink, feeling the slight resistance as it drinks the dark liquid, becoming heavy with possibility. The first stroke is always a prayer, a moment of connection between heart and hand, between the ineffable truth seeking expression and the physical tools that will give it form. The Persian script flows from your pen like water, each letter a graceful curve, each word a small masterpiece of balance and proportion. You write by touch, by the feel of the reed against paper, by the subtle change in sound as ink meets surface, by the rhythm that flows from your heart through your hand. The words that come this morning are born from our tea ritual, from the gold and saffron dissolving in crystal, from the patient preparation that speaks of devotion, of the sacred hidden in the everyday. Each line builds upon the last, creating layers of meaning like the layers of flavor in perfectly brewed tea. In the morning cup of gold, I taste the autumn fields, each saffron thread a prayer dissolved in liquid light. The poem grows slowly, organically, like saffron crocuses blooming in their season. You pause between verses to sip your tea, to listen to the fountain's song, to feel the wind moving through the date palms, each sensation becoming part of the poem, each moment adding depth to the growing verses. The sun climbs higher, beyond the scriptorium's latticed window, sending patterns of light and shadow dancing across the floor, geometric designs that shift and flow like living calligraphy. The shadows are cool, dark script, breathing your tea. As the sun reaches its zenith, as the shadows shrink toward the feet of the date palms, as the fountain's voice grows deeper with the heat of day, you set down your pen and fold your hands in your lap. The poem is complete. Or perhaps completion is an illusion. Perhaps every poem is simply one movement in an endless symphony, one breath in the eternal respiration of creation. You rise slowly from your writing cushion, your joints stiff from sitting. Let your heart light with the satisfaction of work well done. The tea glass is empty now, but its warmth lingers in your memory, along between the human heart and the divine mystery that moves through all things. You make your way back to the kitchen courtyard, to rinse your tea glass in the cool fountain water, to bank the coals in the samovar, to restore order to the sacred chaos of creation. Each action is performed with the same attention you gave to grinding saffron, to shaping letters, to breathing the morning air. The brass surfaces gleam in the noon light, polished by use and care, reflecting the filtered sunlight in tiny dancing stars. The empty saffron box waits on its shelf, ready for tomorrow's ritual, for another morning's communion with the golden threads of devotion. As you complete your simple tasks, as you restore the kitchen to its patient waiting, You feel the deep satisfaction of ritual completed, of morning prayers offered through the medium of saffron tea and handwritten verse, of another day begun in harmony with the ancient rhythms that connect all seekers, all poets, all hearts that beat in time with the eternal pulse of creation. The wind has grown still now, the date palms resting in the heat of noon, their fronds hanging motionless against the blue depth of sky. Even the fountain seems to whisper more softly, its voice gentle and sleepy, like a mother singing lullabies to the drowsing earth. You make your way toward the shaded pavilion beside the reflecting pool, where lunch waits beneath white cotton cloths, where cushions, soft as cloud shadows, offer rest, where the afternoon will unfold like a slow. Your bare feet find the marble pathway that leads toward shade, toward rest, toward the next movement in the day's gentle symphony. Behind you, the scriptorium holds its treasures, fresh ink drying into permanence, new verses joining the endless library of human longing, human hope, human recognition of the divine light that shines through all things. Bright as saffron, warm as morning tea, eternal as the wind that whispers always through the patient date palms, through the latticed windows, through the chambers of the heart that knows itself beloved, knows itself home, knows itself part of the great mystery that unfolds like golden thread, like flowing water, like the endless poem that creation writes, breath by breath, moment by moment, in the language of love, in the script of infinite devotion. The heat of noon settles gently over the garden like a soft blanket, and you settle with it, into the rhythm of the day, into the peace of work completed, into the golden silence that holds all words, all tea rituals, all morning prayers, in its vast and gentle embrace. The wind settles, your body loosens beneath the silk robe, and the warmth of saffron tea carries you toward the shaded pavilion, toward afternoon rest, toward the deep, golden peace that flows like honey through the chambers of the grateful heart. The story settles softly, like a poem that ends without ending, like a breeze that finds its way without asking. You are here now, still and light. The candles have dimmed, and the house has drifted to sleep. If the wind returns, perhaps on another night, the story may return as well. But for now, sleep.